Welcome back yet again to Final Sector. That's right, we are here to preview the next car in the IndyCar race at Laguna Seca. We're ready. No, I'm kidding.
I wish F1 went to Laguna Seca. That'd be fun.
Oh, can you imagine? Yes. No, we are actually heading with F1 into Spain. And the real question here is, can anyone stick with the Red Bulls now that we're back to a traditional circuit? There's actually quite a lot of little things going on here, a bit of bits of news, but first of all, let's get your thoughts. What are you hoping for? What do you think will actually happen here this weekend?
I'm hoping for a fight. I'm not expecting one.
I think that's the common answer.
Yes. And yeah, Spain is one of those where it's like, it's kind of 50-50 whether or not you get a good race here.
It does feel like that,
Yeah, it is really competitive. I think the field is this year more competitive than it's ever been, outside of maybe Sauber. They're a bit on the back foot.
Sure.
I think I read somewhere that they're rumored to bring parts. That's going to be a common thing. I expect almost every team to bring parts here.
Yes.
But yeah, normally it's a two-stop race. They're expecting temperatures to be slightly higher than last year, being a few weeks later in the year. They're saying maybe a three-stop could come into it. I'm going to say that's probably where most of the strategy is going to happen, is just pit stops, which can be a fun thing in and of itself. But
at least we have that, rather than going, well, if it's a boring race, you also have a traditional one stop here. It is nice to know at least if you have a two, there's chances things could go wrong. More luck for someone to stay out, get a safety car, etc., etc. So
for sure,
you're right. It does feel a bit 50-50. And ultimately, it could depend on the performance of the cars, of course. And there is that question mark, as we've been saying, before every race we've kind of had so far, and as we've been reviewing them. There's kind of a reason why you can say why the Red Bull might be weaker here and there. Particularly, I guess, if people want to go down to the curbs. There's not really a lot of intrusive curves here. And even if we used to have the last sector, which kind of did have some curves, this is, I believe, the second year now where we don't even have that. And it's probably a corner the Red Bull quite likes as well. So
real fast-paced, high-speed, high-gear corner. Yeah, that's
indeed
Red Bull licking their chops at that. So
indeed, yeah. But I still think it's a good change. I mean, I guess it's a good time to almost review it. But look, I think that last section we used to have was so clunky and janky. I mean, it was okay in lower feeder series, but even this corner often throws up some surprises and challenges for the feeder series as well. So as much as F1 should be good around here, I guess we should say, there's actually a lot of other series going on here. I don't know if it's all F2, F3, and Academy.
Is
it also?
All three of them, yep.
Yeah, so a lot of time that you're going to need to spend watching, because I'm not committed to all of those, only half of them, I must admit.
By half, you mean F2. The F2 half?
Well, of the four that are on that we kind of talk about.
Right, okay, yeah. Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, so, as we said, there's a lot going on. It looks like it should be pretty warm, dry, quite humid, which might make it a little interesting. But again, we'll have to see. Speaking of, I guess, F2, we will have Ollie Behrman in the Haas this weekend again. Obviously, we've talked about it, and others have talked about it, and as you saw after Saudi, quite likely that he's obviously vying for that seat. So this is obviously part of that. Haven't seen anyone else brought up yet, but sometimes these things can come out, but at least we know that one is in place.
The FIA did lower the age to 17 for the super license, so we might see Antonelli in, I think, the Williams for free practices potentially at some point. So,
yes. We're not going to get into that because I think that's a different topic people are talking about. But yes, since the last weekend, there has been a formal change where you could now, under certain conditions, let in someone who is younger than 18. The old Max Verstappen rule that was set after he got in, it seems that Mercedes have power to change that, even though when the rules were trying to change to allow IndyCar drivers, they didn't allow that. So,
interesting.
Yeah, there's been a lot of chatter in the fact they're saying they changed it for this, but they were very stern in not wanting to change it when McLaren were looking for concession to get some of the, you remember?
Wow,
that is Alex Palou and others in the car.
Yeah, so that is interesting, eh?
Yeah,
know
there's plenty
that.
of chat online about that. If you want to have a look, as I say, we're not necessarily going to go into it. It does open up more of a chance to see that Antonelli may at least be in for free practice.
He's not taking Sargent's seat. Shut up, everyone. It's just for free practice.
Well,
it's just to,
eventually.
not this year though. It's just so they can test him for a couple of sessions and then see if he's
Sure,
good. It's
sure.
kind of like a Behrman.
Yep.
Can he do enough to
Yep.
whatever?
Yep,
He's not
no.
getting the.
It is
Sargent seat.
Yeah, it does state something because ultimately towards the end of the year he would be then kind of viable both in terms of points and in terms of his age. So this change you could say only matters for the next few months, but it likely is so in the case something happens or to put him in for practice or whatever, they are able to do that. So it's obviously an intent to do something, but it's not a full intent to say he's now 100% confirmed.
Yeah,
So.
as people seem to be saying.
Yep, indeed. So have to see. But there's a little bit else going on. Apparently there have been some flexi wing inspections on a few cars. I think it was mainly Red Bull that were talking about it, but I think people saw the Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren, and another team I didn't catch basically getting inspected, particularly the front wings, to check some of the flexi wings. For those of you that don't know, when we talk about, or when the teams talk about flexi wings, wings have sort of tests and they're not allowed to bend by a certain limit. But when you're going a car full down the straight, under certain limits, wings can bend in ways, and it's very hard to test when a car's not moving. So it seems like there's a little bit of scrutiny to make sure teams aren't.
We
being
had
cheeky
this
with that.
issue last year, didn't we? And
It might have been with rear wings, or
I think it was
it always
rear
goes
wings,
back and forth
yeah.
between the two as well.
yeah. I remember there was a big, and they didn't have like the correct devices to like test it.
Yes,
the
they had to
time.
actually. They found a loophole where the test
Loophole,
itself
yes, that's right.
couldn't. Yeah, and teams kind of got around it, and they had to.
That's right. I
patch
think it
it
might have
per
been
se,
Red Bull
so-
actually, which is ironic
Yeah.
that Red Bull are the ones complaining about it. So
Yes, it's the
I
life cycle
love
and politics
Formula
of
One.
F1.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll have to see. I think one of the teams that has announced they have a major upgrade is RB. Apparently, a very big air upgrade,
Pretty
one that they
sizable,
apparently
yeah.
have fast tracked as well a little bit, and they're feeling quite good about that. So considering their recent performance, and if both the drivers can actually perform to the maximum of the car, they could be quite quick around here. I guess as you opened with, it's a good track for teams to test things. I mean, they used to actually do testing here, so it was a good point to see between preseason testing and the race where they are.
Yep.
Don't do it now, but still, it is.
They
a
still
generally
have a
good
lot
test
of
track
data
anyway.
here as well, so
That's true. A
yeah.
lot of historic
There's,
data.
I mean, there are a couple of other reasons why it's good. Logistically, it's easier to bring parts being part of Europe. The only other two
True.
Europe races we had was Imola. Imola, a lot of teams did bring parts, but it's also not. It's a good track, but it's not the best track for testing.
And it's also not too far into the season as well.
Exactly.
Right?
And then you have Monaco, and you don't test parts at Monaco.
No.
So this is like the first one, and then we've also got 5 races in 6 weeks before the mid-season break. So bringing all the parts now gets you, hopefully, if it all pans out, a really big benefit over such a short period of
For
time, over a condensed amount of races. So it makes sense. I would expect every team to bring something. I've seen Red Bull are likely to bring something. Ferrari look like they fast-tracked something that was coming for Silverstone or Austria.
Yep. Sure.
So I didn't see anything about McLaren, but I'd be surprised if they didn't bring anything. I think Mercedes are bringing more bits as well. They're sort of slowly trickling them in every week. So I think every team's going to bring something for sure.
Yeah. So I suppose I'm curious to get your opinion. We might be bleeding into, I guess, part of another segment here, but I guess the question is on Ferrari. I guess when you think back, they have had a lot of stunning pace, but then they have also had completely no pace. I think when you compare them to McLaren, it feels easier to guess the McLaren is always going to be there nipping at the heels. Ferrari feels like they're now back in that dichotomy we kind of had last year where they could turn up and get a pole, or they could turn up and struggle to get into, the top 5, the top 6.
Yeah.
Kind of a question mark. I don't really know which way to flip on this. It'll be a big weekend for them to try and state their claim for the rest of the year. Obviously, if they are genuinely trying to challenge for constructors, we weren't talking about too long ago.
Yeah. I think the two teams, similar to how he said in Canada, the two teams to look out for are both Ferrari and Mercedes. One to see if Ferrari's Monaco, if their Canada was a blip, or if Mercedes Canada was
if it was a blip.
So, entirely possible for both, I think.
Yes.
I'm kind of expecting both, actually. Maybe not like completely back to exactly where they were the previous race, but
yes,
I do expect to see, at the very least, them sort of like swapped around. I think Mercedes, they seem to have... I just don't trust any of the talk that comes out of Mercedes. They're like, we figured it out. And, you know, it's like, have you though? And this is like... talking about Barcelona, it is such an all-encompassing track for like everything. It's low, medium, high-speed corners. It has straights. It has hard braking zones. It has everything. And Mercedes have said that, you know, this generation of car for them, they've always struggled with the tracks that they need to have a little bit of everything. So this is going to be a big test for them. If they're still a bit shit, then which is I kind of expect. I don't see them.
You'd weigh more on it than not.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if both RB drivers are on it. I could see both of them out qualifying and out racing. Maybe not out racing. I think Mercedes' pace, particularly on low fuel, is still very, very strong. But yeah, definitely out qualifying the Mercedes here. So
yeah, I think you're onto something there. I guess the only thing on that Ferrari topic, wouldn't be surprised if we get a stronger inkling on Sainz's direction. I mean, he's kind of come out to say, look, everyone that wanted to snap someone has kind of done it. And now he's probably going to say where he's going.
Being Spanish Grand Prix as well, it seems fitting that he would announce it here. So
yes, so don't be surprised if you start the weekend or mid-weekend and you hear something about that as well.
He's going to Williams. That's what's happening.
It seems that's the talk of the crowd at the moment. So we'll have to see. I think that's all I had in terms of pre-points for this weekend. Did you have much else you wanted?
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing which I guess I don't even know if we mentioned it, but Perez will get a 3-place penalty for his
his
thing from Canada. So it's doubly important for him to have a good qualifying this weekend, because if he needs to at least make Q3, which he didn't last year, and he hasn't for... How many races in a row is it now that he hasn't made it? How many races this year? It's been too many.
I think I have a bunch of stats that when I'm on, I guess, the World Wide Web, I often take, and then I don't actually bring them to this. There was one you just reminded me of.
Okay.
I'm going to find it really quick. I've got the rough number.
Okay.
I think it was that under normal qualifying conditions, and I say this because of a caveat recently, that... Logan Sargent has never outqualified his teammate, but he outqualified Perez 6 times now, actually.
Yeah, I think it was 3 times this year, so...
and 3 times this year. And outside of the once-off for Albon, which he did outqualify him, but not under, brute battle. Irrespective, that even as a stat, you go, wow,
it's pretty bad,
that
isn't
says enough.
Yep.
So I had that one in my pocket for a few weekends, and I'm like, that's right, I keep forgetting.
Yeah. Yeah, this is not a strong track for Checo either. So even
on his best of days, it's a mid track.
But it's okay because I saw an article how he's had a reset and he's all good now.
Oh, another reset.
All the bad races are behind him apparently. So I'll believe it when I see it, brother.
We should get into our predictions, and wow, much like the championship where we thought it was over, after a few rounds, my has it gotten close.
I wasn't even that far off either. I knew it was a close race, and it could have easily not had Max on the podium.
It's true. I mean, to be fair, I guess if we're going by our rules, you have used that now, and I think in hindsight, even with the race, it was a good choice to make. But I do cash in on the Max win. And we both had Lando on there, but in the wrong spot. So we both got half off for Lando. So effectively a net gain of 1 from myself, which means that you are at 13.5.
Who did we pick for P2 again? Who was that? Who did we pick for P2? It wasn't Charles, was it?
Yeah.
No, we wouldn't do that. We wouldn't have predicted that. That'd be crazy. No.
I thought you were going to say who do we pick for P20, because like I said last time out, we should have just picked the driver that is most commonly P20, and neither of us did, and we got punished for it. Could have been 3 points.
Yep.
There you go.
Oh.
So I guess we need to spin the wheel. And we actually have the technology to verify if we haven't done this one before.
The
Can you
technology
believe
of looking up what we've done before. Yes.
it?
Yep.
So I'm going to say a number, and you're going to tell me if we've done it so far.
I will do
How
that.
about number 10?
We've had 10.
100%.
That was Monaco.
11.
We have done 11, Japan.
12. I'm not making this up.
Really? No, we haven't done 12.
Just
All right.
going down. B12.
P12.
Lance Stroll.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't feel like he's got the points in him this weekend, despite the points last weekend.
Yeah, and Aston are on the rise, right? After their strong weekend in Canada.
Yeah.
They're
Oh.
on the rise.
He feels like a safe P12er.
Yeah, he sure does. Hulkenberg.
That's not a bad pick.
I was going to say
not a bad
Magnussen,
pick.
but I don't know that... I just think Haas will probably be slightly on the back foot. I don't think either of them will get points
Sure.
this weekend. So I still think Hulk will be higher than Magnussen, as
Sure.
always
That's a
seems
good
to
pick.
be. Even when Magnussen qualifies higher, Hulkenberg always seems to, whether it's through strategy or just better racing, he always seems to end up ahead
Or
of him on the
magic.
track. Or magic. Could be magic.
All right, then we get into the big three. Do we just P1? Is this where you commit? Are you going a different strategy again?
No, it's
Or-
Max. Hell
Yeah,
no.
it's
This
Max.
is the
It's-
most confident
it's-
Max all year, for sure.
Yes, probably yes.
Yeah, I expect that Red Bull to... We've seen when aero does start to play a big part, like as the main focus, that Red Bull is just better. Like the overall aero package is just better. It's when you add all these caveats of, oh, it's Monaco, or oh, the tires might do some funny things at Miami, or throw in some
Curbs at Imola.
curbs or weather and things like this, and it's like, okay, that's when you start to see either the weaknesses of the Red Bull or the strengths of some of the other teams. This is just, it's going to be dry, it's going to be hot. The tire deg is not going to be like Miami where it's like graining and overheating. It's just going to be stock deg, which they're generally pretty good with. Remember their negative deg.
Negative deg.
And it's just
Negative side pod, negative deg.
exactly. And it's all aero, and that Red Bull is just the best aerodynamically efficient car at the moment. So yeah, if Max doesn't win it, it's a pretty big upset for me. So
Yeah. Tend to agree. I don't think I've got much more to add. And it's easy to forget that even when Red Bull were weak, and if you take Monaco out of the picture, they still managed to work it out and win a few races even when it was close. So if you think this has least opportunity for others to have an advantage, well, gap becomes wider. Not impossible, and I guess that's what we're hoping for, but again, we're predicting here, and you got to go with what's potentially most accurate, right?
Sure.
I guess I'm interested. It's been, I guess, last weekend, if you consider it, and a few others, you have put Piastri fairly high up there. As much as he's still performing well, I guess if he is in your discussion for this week, or if he has dropped off.
I've got him P3.
You still got him on
I
there. Credit where it's due. Okay.
Yeah, it's a gamble as well, because his, particularly in such a high tire management race, high tire deg race, that is the one thing he seems to struggle with. Particularly the McLaren as well seems to be a little worse on that than the other teams.
You can manage tires on it, but you've got to be very good at it. We've seen a few instances where Lando and Oscar might be quite similar pace early in a stint, but then Oscar drops off and Lando actually seems to get quicker. He seems to have really learnt that way, while Oscar does struggle with it.
Yeah.
So.
The one thing I will say that Oscar might have going for him, he's obviously raced a lot at Barcelona as well. He's got a lot of experience here, even in the junior categories. They race a lot here. So even in like Formula 2, Formula 3, you have to know how to do tire management there, because the tires die in like a lap and a half. So, I'm kind of just hoping, like every race he seems to get a little bit better. So I'm kind of just hoping he's there. And I do expect, even if the tire deg is a little bit higher on that McLaren, especially if a 3-stop is viable, you could see, teams do, fast stints and just do 3 stops instead of the genuine 2-stop that we normally have here. So, and it could end up paying off. And I think with the pace, the race pace that the McLaren has, something like that has to be a consideration. So, and that would, mitigate the tire deg issues that Oscar might have, to Lando. But, we'll say P3 for Oscar. Which also means I've got Lando P2, which
that's what I was about to say. If you didn't have him P2, I think this would be a much bigger call. Yeah. When you said it, I went, actually, if you've got Lando ahead of him and we were talking about the strength of that car, it's not as bold a call, I guess.
Yeah, I kind of gave it away, so, yeah.
No, that's fair enough. I was going to almost allude to it, but let you decide if you wanted to reveal it or not.
Whatever.
Yeah. Well, I've also got Lando P2.
Yep.
Again, just kind of going down that he's Lando if the car is strong, and in a track like this he is more likely to be the one that's ahead of the rest. Hopefully challenging for P1 will need to see, or at least in a good position where if there's a spot of luck, i.e. Miami, then he can take advantage of it, right?
Yeah, sure.
P3 I have gone someone different, so we do have something different, and maybe it's a bit of a safe call, maybe it's a bit of a cop-out. Charles Leclerc P3, expecting the Ferrari to be there or thereabouts again. I'd be more shocked if they suddenly had such a poor downfall that they were poor here if it's good conditions. It wasn't that long ago, again, we were genuinely talking about them being, vying for a genuine constructors fight.
Yeah.
So
they're still not that far behind, to be fair, even after.
It's true.
We talked about with
I'm saying
Perez
the
shitting the bed.
About it. Exactly. It's not like suddenly we just go, oh, one bad race, they're now struggling to get points, or the Mercedes is beating them. It's like you'd be more shocked at that.
Yep.
And maybe it's spreading my bets a bit. I kind of like this having one
of each team,
one of each driver. But I can easily see the McLaren actually being that quite a bit better, and therefore having both drivers up there.
Being a lot of high-speed corners as well, the McLaren is normally that's their strength, is high-speed corners.
Yeah.
There is a little bit of a question mark whether or not they brought a lot of upgrades to help them in the low-speed corners, because there was a lot of tracks recently that have low-speed corners that they really needed to excel at, and it's worked for that. And there's this kind of has that sacrificed their high-speed corner pace? They don't seem to think so. Obviously, they wouldn't, but this will be a really good test to see if, them...
Proof is in the pudding.
Pushing one way has sacrificed their really good strengths in those high-speed corners. So,
sure.
But yeah, we'll just have to see.
We will have to see, indeed. We'll have to see how it pans out. Make sure that you tune in. As we say, there is also plenty of other racing going on, so particularly if you have a chance and the ability to check out the F2 as well, because that is likely to be a banger. This is often quite a aggressive circuit with drivers fighting, and really those that are vying for the title kind of put their stake in the ground at this point.
It's really close at the top as well.
It's also very close. Yeah. So indeed, exciting weekend ahead. Hopefully exciting for all categories that's on this weekend. But as always, after it's all said and done, we will be we will be back with a pretty quick turnaround, given, as you say, we have a triple header and then a double header. So we'll have to make sure to be snippety.
No sleep for the final sector, boys, for the next 5-6 weeks.
It would just force us to be more efficient with our previews and debriefs, I think.
Yes.
Normally there's less chance for build-up of news anyway, because things are happening so rapidly. So, but anyway, we will be back to debrief. Looking forward to seeing everyone there. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, X, whatever you're on that you can find us on. Let us know what you're thinking for this weekend. But otherwise, we're out of here, and we'll catch you on the flip side.